Hello and welcome to the Honest Talk podcast. In this new series, I'll be talking about the lessons I learned at the Zimbabwe Entrepreneurs Trade Fair and Conference, which was held on the 21st of May 2022 at the Rainbow Hotel. I hope you have your notebooks ready and your minds opened to receive all of the nuggets I'll be sharing with you. Enjoy the episode. So today I'm going to be talking about the lessons I learned from Mudiwa Hood. He is a Zimbabwean entrepreneur and artist. If you're a Zimbabwean, you've probably already heard about him. If you haven't heard about him, or if you're not Zimbabwean and you don't know him, you should probably check him out. You never know, it might be worth your while. Do you remember how in the last episode I was talking about how I learned that you don't need to actually interact with someone on a personal level for them to be your mentor? He might actually be your next online mentor that you look up to. Anyways, without wasting much time, I will jump right into the episode. Mudiwa was talking about things that they never taught us in college or things they never taught us in school. And these are basically life skills that we need in the real world that we don't get the opportunity to learn in conventional school setups because of the way our education system is. The first thing he said that they don't teach us in school or college is that life is not competitive, it is collaborative. At this point, he was talking about how in school setups we're taught to be competitive, we're taught to be the best. We're not really taught to collaborate and team up with other people because in a normal school setup, the goal is to do the best that you can so that at the end of the year or at the end of the term, you can be the one to win the prize. So you don't usually look out for other people. You're looking out for yourself, trying to make sure you become the best so that you can get first position. Now, Mudiwa was talking about how this kind of mentality doesn't really work in the real world because you can't go far alone. In the real world, you will need partners, you will need teammates if you are to go far. So that's the first point. Life is not competitive, it is collaborative. Whilst he was still on this point, he talked about how you should never look down on anyone because everyone is a potential customer or a potential business partner. He said you should be intentional in the way you interact with people because you never know when you might need the person that you are being rude to or the person that you are not being nice to. So never look down on anyone, no matter what level they are at when you meet them, because you never know what the future holds for that person. So we should always be intentional and we should always know that life is not competitive, it is collaborative. Even that person that you're looking down on might be the next person that you need to collaborate with in a big project. The next thing he talked about is that in life you need to fail fast and fail forward. Now on this point he was talking about how everyone fails at some point, and it's not helpful for you to wallow in self-pity after you have failed because it doesn't really help you achieve anything. Wallowing in self-pity doesn't reverse the failure, it just doesn't help anything. So fail fast, fail forward. When you fail, accept the fact that you failed. Do an evaluation of why you failed, try and correct the mistakes that you made, and then try again and do it better next time. So you need to accept the reality that everyone fails and there's nothing special about your kind of failure, so there's no reason to keep on dwelling on it instead of taking measures that will help you make progress. And then the next thing he said was, this one was a very interesting one for me because it seemed quite controversial at first. Let me say it first and then I will talk about what I thought about it after I've stated it. So here it goes. There is no reason to have a plan B. It will distract you from plan A. Now this point for me was mind-blowing because if you're someone like me, you've been brought up in a setting where you're constantly being taught that you should always have a backup plan in case what you want fails. You always need to have something to fall back on. And then there was Mudiwa coming up with something that was completely different from what I had been taught. It was mind-blowing. I couldn't accept it because, I mean, what do you then do when something fails? But then, when I came to think of it, it actually made sense. Because when you have a plan and you don't have a backup plan, if that plan fails, because you don't have a backup plan, you're going to evaluate the reasons why you failed, and you're going to try and make sure you do it again a different way until you find the right way to do it, and then you eventually succeed. Now this one, I feel like it's a bit difficult to implement, really. But then I also think that if implemented, then it might actually lead to a lot of people's dreams becoming reality eventually. Because if you don't have a plan B, then you can't do anything but keep on trying for your plan A. And today I was reading somewhere, and it said that the only way to ensure success is to try again one more time. So this would mean that if you fail, no matter how many times you fail, you're always going to be trying again one more time. And eventually your plan A is going to become a reality. I mean, think of Thomas Edison and the light bulbs. Trying for thousands of times. He didn't have a plan B. He just wanted to make that light bulb, and eventually he succeeded. So here's a point to consider. There's no reason to have a plan B. It will distract you from plan A. Tell me what you guys think about this point, because for me, I feel like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Because if I have a plan B, the moment plan A fails, even if it's for the first time, I would just be fine with it and just be like, oh well, I tried, let me move on to plan B, even though plan B is not really my dream. So let me know what you think about this particular point, because I found it quite interesting, and I'm still trying to apply that in my life and see how it goes. And the next thing he talked about was refuse to be smart. You always need a mentor. Here, he was talking about how you shouldn't be the kind of person who wants to be the know-it-all and I can't learn from anyone because I'm better than everyone kind of person. You need to be open to other people's opinions. You need to be open to advice from other people. You need to be willing to see things from other people's perspectives as well. Don't be the kind of person who thinks that you're better than everyone else. There's always something that you can learn from other people. That's the beauty of being humans and living in community. There's so much to gain from everyone. Like, everyone has something unique in them, and you can learn something from everyone. So be open-minded. Refuse to be the smartest. Humble yourself enough to be able to learn from other people. And then he also talked about, on that same point, like I was saying, you always need a mentor. I'm sure if you've been following the series, you already know that this issue of getting mentors is a serious one. And if you don't have one by now, you should probably make a plan and go get one, because everyone was talking about how important it is to have a mentor. And I mean, if all the successful guys are talking about getting mentors, and we are not yet as successful as we want to be, who are we to say that it doesn't work when it has worked for them? So yeah, whatever industry you want to get in, whatever area you are interested in, make sure you find someone who inspires you in that area, who can mentor you either personally or not personally. The next thing he talked about was you are responsible for your own visibility. No one is coming to save you. Be relevant. And on this one, he said something very interesting. And I'll start by saying, if you know Mudiwa, you probably have heard all of the stories about him, like when he gets bashed or when he gets compared to other artists and people say he's a terrible artist and everyone is always talking about him, he said that sometimes he will personally make a deal with another artist and cause a scandal or a rivalry. Stage a scandal or a rivalry between him and that artist just to get people talking about him. Because he was saying, the more people talk about me, the more people compare me with other artists, the more I get booked for gigs because people want to compare me and that artist. So he gets booked because people want to see who's the best between the two of them. And as people are bashing him and talking about him, he's making money. He's making sure he's visible by making these deals and getting people talking about him. That was very interesting for me because I would always wonder why everyone is always on about Mudiwa is not a good singer. This one is better than him. So he's making sure he's visible. So you need to make sure that you are visible because no one is going to come and start promoting you. No one is going to come and start getting people talking about you. Now, that is Mudiwa's own way of making sure he stays relevant, making sure he stays a topic of discussion, making sure he's visible. As an individual, you need to find a way to keep yourself visible in your area, in your industry. And no one is going to do that for you. You need to make sure you're visible. And on this issue of visibility, I personally like to talk about online visibility. As young people, we're using social media a lot. And it's very important that we are portraying ourselves on social media in the right way, the way we want the world to see us. Because how you're presenting yourself on social media today could influence the job that you want in 5 years' time or in 10 years' time or even next year. So it's very important. You're responsible for your visibility. And I would like to stress the fact that it's not only visibility that's important, but are the visuals coming off in the way that you would want the world to see you. Because we need to remember that social media platforms are global platforms and it's like we're presenting ourselves to the world. Is the way you're presenting yourself the way you want the whole world to see you? Is that the image you want people to think of when they hear your name or when they see you? So you're responsible for your own visibility. Make sure you stay relevant. We're creative. We can find ways to make sure we stay relevant as young people. And the next point he talked about is you are not paid for what you can do. They will pay you for what they cannot do without you. So it's not just a matter of I can do this, so people have to pay me for this. If you can cook and I can cook, I'm not going to pay you to cook all the time. Because if I can do it for myself, then I probably won't want to spend a lot of money on it. But people will pay you for what they cannot do without you. And on this point, it's very important for us as young people to realize or discover what we're good at, so that we can leverage on those skills and keep on improving on them until we're the very best at them, so that we can start monetizing our skills and our talents. Because people will only pay you for what they cannot do without you, because they will know that when it comes to graphics designing, this person is the best. And even if we know how to do it, the basics, if we want the best product, we need to go to this particular person because he or she is the best at it, and then they will be willing to pay. So make sure you discover your talents and your skills and you leverage on them and you polish them and perfect them until you are able to monetize them. Then the next thing he talked about was something that I personally really liked. He said you should be genuinely interested in people. And this one goes back to the first point where I was talking about how he said life is not competitive, it's collaborative, and how we should be intentional in building relationships with people. Don't be the kind of person who always likes talking about themselves but doesn't give other people the chance to talk as well. Be the kind of person who is able to be a good listener. Be genuinely interested when people are talking to you, because people like people who can listen. Like, that's a very good way to build relationships with people, because everyone likes being listened to. So if you manage to become a good listener, my word, you'll be able to go far in terms of building relationships and forming connections. And that is the foundation of making it in life, because like I said before, you can't really go far on your own. So if you're building good relationships with people, then you're most likely to go very far. The next thing he said was, rules are meant to be broken. And this one, he was talking about, I don't mean go and start breaking the rules at your school or breaking the rules at your home that your parents set for you. No. He was talking about how some in school, like, remember the topic is things we were not taught in school or college. In school, you're taught to do things in a certain way, and that way is defined as the only way to do those particular things. And if you do them in another way, you are immediately wrong. But he was saying now in the real world, things don't work like that, because we need innovation. People make money off of innovation, coming up with new ideas. So rules are meant to be broken. If you see something, think of another way to do it, a new way. Allow yourself to think outside the box. Allow yourself to be innovative. Allow yourself to be open-minded, because the ways that we're defined are not the only possible ways. And you have a mind, which means you have an unlimited ability to think of different ways to do things, to think of different solutions for existing problems. So rules are meant to be broken. Innovation is there to prove elasticity. That's what he said. And the next and last thing that he said that I will talk about is stay hungry. Don't linger too long on your past success. And on this point, he was talking about how you should be a person who is success-oriented. And when you achieve a win, don't dwell on it for too long, because it will distract you from achieving other wins. Accept that you have succeeded, accept that you've gained a victory, and also accept that now you need to move on. You need to achieve more. You need to stay hungry if you're going to be a successful person. You don't be the kind of person who's always lingering on past glories, always talking about, 10 years ago I achieved this, and 10 years ago I made headlines for this thing, and be hungry, move on. Be constantly thinking of, okay, I've done this, great. What's the next thing that I'm going to achieve? That's how you become a successful person. He said, the only way to enjoy another meal is to stay hungry. Because if you're constantly thinking about, I had this wonderful meal and it filled me up, you won't want to have another meal, because the last one that you had was so amazing and you're already content with that. So stay hungry. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you learned a thing or two. I certainly learned a lot from the presentation that was done by Mudiwa Hood at the Zimbabwe Entrepreneurs Trade Fair and Conference, and I am actually trying to apply these lessons in my life, and I'll see how it goes. Now, the important thing is not just to hear these things. The important thing is implementation, and I hope that as you're listening to these episodes, you're being inspired to implement these things in your life, and that they're being helpful to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them either on the Instagram page, on the comment sections at the Honest Talk Podcast, or if you're listening using Anchor, just use the Anchor app to ask your questions. You can even ask them in voice note. I would be very happy to hear your voices. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day or night, depending on what time you listen to this. Stay honest. Bye.